She's been vice president for almost 4 years, and she did nothing to stop the invasion of our country.
I think the number one thing he's going to do is secure our southern border. 8 million illegal immigrants have come to this country over the course of the last 3.5 years. And when President Trump left office, it was at the lowest in decades. So I think he's going to start with immigration, and he's going to have to also attack inflation. We have unbelievably soaring costs of living in San Diego County and around the country, priced up 20% under the Biden-Harris administration. So President Trump's going to fight back against that by balancing budgets, by lowering taxes, so that money is put back in the people's pockets rather than the federal government.
I want to talk about former President Trump's qualifications for the job at this point in time. He's been convicted of 34 felonies in the Stormy Daniels case. He's accused of trying to overturn the election results in the 2020 presidential election and inciting an insurrection. He's been found liable civilly for sexual assault. He's been ordered to pay $355 million in penalties for lying on his financial statements, and he's been accused of breaking the law by taking classified documents home. What makes Donald Trump a good candidate for president in your eyes?
Well, number one, you have to have people vote for you. And President Trump has, since 2016, had hundreds of millions of Americans vote for him. Kamala Harris has never had anybody vote for her for president in her entire presidential career. She's never been president, whereas President Trump has. And I think that the record over the 2017 to 2021 was fantastic for the American people, whether it be low immigration, whether it be lower taxes, whether it be a roaring economy.
But what role does his criminal record play in your thinking about whether he makes a good candidate?
Well, that's all still going through the judicial process, right? I mean, I hear
but
a lot.
One case has been completed.
Well, no, that's under appeal.
It's under appeal,
and
but a jury of his peers found him guilty of 34 felonies.
And then there's also a Supreme Court decision that's happened in the interim there, which I think completely changes that case. And also, if we want to look at the judicial process, people have a right to appeal, and President Trump is a citizen of this country, and there's an appeal process that is ongoing. You missed the federal documents case in the long run of litany of what you laid out a couple minutes ago.
Special Prosecutor Jack Smith he's appealing that.
So President Trump's appealing too, so I think we should have a standard applied to both sides in the same way.
Project 2025, a blueprint for a restructuring of the executive branch that is aligned with conservative principles, would, among other things, eliminate the Department of Education and the National Weather Service, put the Justice Department under the control of the president, limit access to food assistance, and cut overtime protections. President Trump has distanced himself from that plan, but CNN found that 140 people who worked on that plan also worked within the Trump administration. Why should Americans believe him?
I'm the head of the Republican Party of San Diego County. I'll leave to President Trump his opinion on Project 2025, but I'm generally supportive of what the Heritage Foundation does as a great conservative think tank.
Trump has said that he had every right to interfere in the 2020 presidential election. He has falsely claimed that he won the 2020 election. And he said during the June debate with Biden that he would accept the 2024 presidential election results if it is fair and legal and a good election. Is he a good judge on whether an election is fair, legal, and good?
I mean, you've had tens of millions of Americans who think that he is. So that means something. But if what you're meaning by the question is should we have fair, free elections in our country? Absolutely. And I think Republicans stand willing to work with Democrats towards that end. How about doing something simple in California, which is voter ID? 80% of Americans agree with voter ID. Only 15 states don't have voter ID in our country. Countries around the world, the countries like the United Kingdom, have voter ID for voting. This is not some kind of uncommon thing in the history of the world. But what it can do is a lot of Republican voters in California feel that these elections aren't fair. And by putting voter ID, a universally popular effort, if we can put that into play in California, I think that would really put more confidence in the election systems going forward.
Corey, Americans, as you all know, are deeply divided on major policy issues: immigration, race, abortion, even democracy. Are there some shared values that remain that unify Americans?
I think so. I think that's an excellent question. And I think that's what both political parties should look at. And I think that why I'm a Republican, why I'm a conservative Republican, is because I think there's really one thing that unites our country, and that's our founding principles, right? A lot of folks like to say that, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were of a different age, right? And there were obviously terrible things going on there. Rights weren't applied equally, obviously, when we talk about slavery. But what the Declaration of Independence, when it talks about pursuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it's talking about where we want to end up, right? It's setting out a goalpost for where America should be. And then we can have different opinions on topics like healthcare, taxation policy, military spending. These are all things we can have within the bounds of our democratic system of government, right? But what can unite us as people from across the country, whether you are male or female, regardless of your sexual orientation or your race or your color or your creed, those founding documents are applicable to all men everywhere.
Corey Gustafson, thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to be back in the future.